Hey, boys and girls, welcome back to Midgame Life Crisis. I am Inconsistency.
I'm Werewolf.
And today we want to talk to you guys about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and how first-person, not shooter, but rather a first-person adventure game can work.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
With that perspective, basically. It's a bit of a hot take. Not everyone agrees with it. There is a lot of disadvantages to having it being an adventure-heavy game and not a shooter in a first-person perspective.
You don't say!
But it can work. We've seen it work before. We're going to give some examples. Let's get into it. Wolf, take it away, man.
A lot of gameplay footage came out today for Indy, the Great Circle. Until now, they showed practically nothing.
Yeah.
And listen.
When it comes to gameplay.
Yeah, when it comes to gameplay. And it's first person, and I think it fucking looks good.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. It looks good. It looks great. It looks great. There was a lot of doubt before these videos.
Huge discussions, all valid with great points for both perspectives.
Yep, 100%. Listen, the thing about Indiana Jones games, or inspired games by Indiana Jones, games like Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, Uncharted, those games are heavily... They would not exist if there was not the first trilogy of Indiana Jones.
Sure.
We should not discuss the other two abominations.
Look how they massacred my boy.
What two abominations?
Exactly, thank you. What I'm saying is, those games were the gold standard for adventure action games or action adventure games, right? Where you do a lot of platforming, you do puzzle solving, and you do a lot of action. And they were third-person perspective. And Indiana Jones, the actual game that is based on the IP that inspired those iconic games, said, nah, man, we're going the different way. We're going to go first-person. A heavily adventure action game. From what we've seen from the previews. So there was a lot of doubt from people, from the community, rightfully so, because there's a lot of limitations to a first-person perspective in adventure games, right?
Sure.
Let's get into some of them, shall we?
Yeah. I'd like to say first, though,
yeah,
this video has shown me one thing, and that is that they gave a lot of attention to small details that just fit the movie.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like the silhouette of Indiana Jones with the backlighting, the punches being ridiculously loud when it hits Nazi faces.
Oh yeah, it's exactly the same punch effect from the movies. I love it. I love it. It's so over the top and exaggerated. I love it. But what you said about the silhouette, the shadow effects in this game looks great. The lighting and shadow effects looks really good. Despite actual characters, the NPCs at least, that you see in the cities and the streets, we weren't very impressed with them. Let's just say that. Their animation is kind of weak.
We're not talking about the cinematics.
No, the cinematics are very good.
When you walk gameplay, first person, when you walk in the bazaar or whatever, it feels a bit... It
does seem a bit, what would you call it, old-fashioned? Sure, if you want to be nice about it. But I will say the actual environments look great. The effects of lighting and shadows looks awesome in my opinion. And they put a lot of emphasis on the shadows in the game because what you said of the silhouette of Indiana Jones, it's an iconic scene from almost all the movies where you see at some point, you see his silhouette against something or against someone before he shows up, and the epic music, the John Williams epic music comes up.
Sure.
And they managed to capture that not only in the cinematics. In the cinematics, it's not a big deal. You can see it in the actual gameplay that they put the thought behind it that not everyone will even notice this pretty small attention to detail.
But if you're an old fuck like us that grew up with the movies, sure.
Yeah, it means that the people who created this game actually love the movies, right? The trilogy.
Yep. Look, not all graphics are great. Some of the water effects or the electricity that we saw was not amazing.
Yeah.
But look, this is not a final build. This is like a preview version. We don't know. They might fix all of these things. This is not the point here at all.
No.
Let's talk about platforming, for example. All right?
In first person or in third person?
Both. In this game. All right?
Yeah, because this game does both.
Sure.
Basically.
And this is a part of what maybe makes it work, you know? Because in where it matters, it's first person. and where it needs to be, it's third person. When you're doing traversal, which is, you want to see a wide angle, you want to see your character do the acrobatic things, it's more epic.
Yep.
The second you start traversing something, you climb a pipe, you use the whip to jump over a pit or whatever, you move to third person. Very similarly to Deus Ex, Human Revolutions, where the same thing, most of the game is first person, but when you climb something, third person kicks in.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you hide behind the cover, same thing. It goes like a Gears of War perspective all of a sudden.
Yeah. Now, MachineGames have shown exceptional talent in making first-person games.
That's their specialty, basically.
And I think this shows also in the third-person portions of this game. At least in the video, the movement animations and the general movement in the traversal, I wasn't totally convinced. The first-person parts are amazing. We're going to discuss them. But the third-person...
Yeah. I think the third person, you can tell they didn't invest as much time and effort into it as much as the first person, because when you climb stuff in this game, even when you swing on your whip, something about it seems off. The animation seems a bit clunky, if not clumsy a bit. The model, the actual character model of Indy, I don't know, doesn't look as in-depth, as detailed as it does when you see him in the cinematics, in the cutscenes.
Wow. Night and day, bro.
Night and day, yeah, it's a big difference, not like a small difference, it's a huge difference. And it just looks clunky compared to third-person games, basically, like Assassin's Creed and like God of War, 1,000 other examples. But what I will say is that while they didn't invest a lot in that, it seems, it's serviceable, it does the job. I will say the first person, everything in the first person, where you will spend most of your time in this game, obviously. You'll be fighting, you'll be solving puzzles in first person. And those are the two things you'll be doing the most. So I will say the first person looks great. The melee combat looks absolutely fantastic. It looks so meaty and heavy with the punches, the sound of the punches.
Yeah,
and
it feels realistic. The screen shakes. You feel like you're getting
it's visceral.
Newton's third law. When you hit someone's face, you shake yourself.
They really managed to catch the vibe of the movie from the sound effects and the animation of you knocking Nazis out, it's great.
And when your fist hits his face, you see dust coming off of his shoulders and face, because he's in a dusty environment.
There's attention to detail in this game that makes it already seems special to us, like two old gamers who appreciate the attention to detail in games.
It makes it immersive.
Yes.
The first person combat, melee combat here is immersive. It feels and looks great.
Yes, it does. There is some issues with first-person combat, right? In every first-person melee combat, at least. In range combat, it's like a first-person shooter. It doesn't matter. It's easy. Yeah. But in a melee combat, it makes things a lot tougher.
When you get multiple enemies, for sure.
Especially when you get multiple enemies. Because then the difficulty hikes up. They can surround you, right? You can't see them as easy as you can when you're in third person. Sure. It's a whole different ball game.
It's not Arkham or Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, that's why you probably won't be fighting that many, at least not in melee, right? You won't be fighting too many of those in this game. It also seems to be a lot of more emphasis on stealth.
I was about to say, the whole point, I guess, is that you're not supposed to get into a fight with three people. That means you're doing something wrong. Stealth is supposed to be the way to go.
Not in the same time, no, yeah. Stealth seems to be heavily implemented in this game. It looks okay, nothing that we haven't seen before. But again, the animations really sell it for us.
The stealth feels good.
The fact that you can knock out people, right, from behind, the animations are really great. It seems it's not the same. It's everything. It seems like you can do it with different variety of weapons.
Weapons, bro. Items.
Items, exactly.
Different variety of items, not weapons.
Which is something that's cool, It's unique.
It's very indie. Indy uses things in his environment all the time.
Yeah, he does.
And the whip is very central, both in combat, in traversal. His hat has like mechanics in the game.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Can you explain that one?
There's a skill that if you get it, there's like slight RPG elements, where you get special skills.
Yeah.
And these come from books.
Yeah, that you collect in the world, yeah.
Yeah, but you still need to invest adventure points in them. You can't just read them and get it. Anyway, not the point. If you get downed, it doesn't end. If you have your hat nearby, you can crawl to it, put it on, and then you spring back on your legs.
Yeah, you need to get to the hat in time before the timer expires. And if you do, you're resurrected. Like the phoenix from the fucking ashes, bro.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. It's very creative,
Yeah.
right?
The stealth feels good with the shadows, as we mentioned, and the stealth mechanics. You can use decoys and noise. It's very Thief-like. Thief is the grandfather of these stealth games. First person.
First person stealth games, yeah. Yep, he basically started that genre.
Where you can knock out your enemies and you can drag them out of sight.
Very, very Dishonored.
Yeah, Dishonored does that as well.
Would you say the Deus Ex games were reminded? We mentioned the Deus Ex games for sure, the modern ones.
Sure,
especially.
they're more FPS oriented.
No, they're like, there's a lot of stuff. You don't have to be combat heavy at all. That's the thing in Deus Ex. You can pretty much do it non-lethal if you want.
Sure, there's much more freedom. I don't know for sure, but it feels like, this game is intended to be stealth.
Yeah, it seems like they want you to mostly play the stealth. Correct me if I'm wrong. We didn't see a lot of gunplay at all, actually.
No.
Did we?
The emphasis is on melee combat.
Yeah, but there is gunplay in the game. There's a very short clip of Indiana loading a revolver, and it looks good.
The guy that played the game said he used the pistol once, but the noise that it made got him in so much trouble with lots of Nazis that it just discourages you from using the pistol unless you have no choice.
I hope, though, that when you do use gunplay, it feels very powerful, but limited, that you can only use it. You only have very limited ammo, but it's a one-shot kill, no bullshit,
We know for sure there's a scene where you use a machine gun to take down planes.
Yeah, that seems like one of those, what do you call them?
On rails?
On rails, exactly. That's one of those on-rail scenes where you only control the turret.
Yes.
That's it. It doesn't look very interactive, but it's okay. I don't mind those scenes if they're done right, if they're done correctly, and it works well it works well for the world and narrative of Indiana Jones. It just does, right? He's a fucking gunner in a World War II airplane. It's basically a combat airplane. There's a scene like that in the third movie, bro.
Yeah.
Where it's his father shooting, not him. He's flying. Remember?
Yeah,
he shoots the fucking backside. By mistake. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, another thing, the first person looks pretty cool in this game is the puzzle solving, right? It looks pretty cool doing it in this game because it works well, again, for the indie theme of this extremely immersive, old dig sites or old tombs or some creepy place. It's just, there's something about being in first person where you look with his lighter. You have his lighter. He uses it as a light source.
He uses it for a lot of things.
Yeah, it works a lot better in first person than it does in third person, scenes like that. So that works very well for the environment and for the exploration and the puzzle solving. But one of the issues that you could run into is, obviously you're seeing a lot less of the area you're in because you have a very narrow
perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So it might make certain puzzles a bit harder to achieve, but I don't know. It all depends on how creative they are and how they do it. I think it won't be an issue. From what we've seen in the gameplay videos, it looks pretty cool. They highlight the stuff you need to pick up, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it will be an issue. Might be even too easy. I hope they add an option to not have items highlighted.
I hope they have that for the platforming too, because they marked with color the places you can climb. I hate that.
I mean, that's something that you see that in pretty much every game there is these days, right? At least third-person games, right? And this goes into third-person when you climb stuff.
No, not all games hold your hand like that.
I mean, yeah, sure, but the God of War, you have that marking that you see it on the wall. That's the only wall.
Sure, Horizon Zero Dawn did that too, but I don't like it.
Most of those games do it, bro. The thing is, in this game, they went for that hybrid perspective, right? Where it goes into third person when you climb stuff, when you do any platform, and that seems to be the weakest aspect of the game for what we've seen. Again, because the animation looks clumsy and all. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
Anyways, the immersive first person games we hope inspired this game, and why we hope they inspired them, and we think they inspired this game because from what we've seen today, it seems like at least some of these games inspired the developers. Want to get into it?
Sure. One of the first choices would be Cyberpunk 2077.
Yep.
This game is
shit. Yeah, for sure.
Almost totally in first person, except when you're driving a car, basically.
Yep.
And you don't you don't have to. You can keep it in first person. Very immersive, but so difficult. And anyway, that game is one of the most immersive games I've ever played.
For sure.
Coupled with the voice acting, which also in indie, at least from what we have seen, seems very well made.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good.
Yeah. So there's a lot of inspiration that can be taken from that game. The whole hand play, I mean, they even took it a step further with the cinematics where they're all in first persons, but this is not something we see in indie anyway.
Yeah, the Taeyan games, man.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, those are listening. Taeyan Games, the small Polish company that made both RoboCop, the latest RoboCop game, Rogue City.
Yep.
And they made before that the Terminator Resistance games.
And before that, Rambo, but we don't talk about that.
we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. He's a man, not a god.
He's a man, not a god.
Anyways, Thief, right?
Yeah.
The Thief games.
We discussed it. It's the granddaddy of all of them.
Yeah, when it comes to the stealth from first person, for sure.
Yeah.
When it comes to the combat reminds me a lot of Kingdom Come Deliverance, to be honest.
Yeah. It feels, that combat feels immersive, and this one feels immersive as well. Feels very well grounded. The shaking, the hitting gives you the vibe like you're actually hitting. It doesn't feel floaty or, unrelated, jarring. Not at all, not at all. They've done it very well. The blocking seems natural. The immersiveness is present. It's very present.
Yeah, the graphic design and the art design seems to respect the source material.
Yes.
Let's just say that.
Yes, a lot.
And be inspired by it.
Some of these combats are exactly like in the movie, like a giant beefy German that you need to bring down hard, and it's not that easy.
Yeah, no, not easy at all.
I said German, I meant Nazi.
Yeah.
It looks like MachineGames are going for the dynamic person perspective, if you will, where they're changing where they need to be. They're keeping what they are good at. First person games. All right? Wolfensteins were great. At least the first two. The third was...
The young blood, was it? It was pretty terrible. But the other ones, the first two were good, yeah.
The first was amazing. Amazing game.
The first was amazing. The first was a benchmark in first-person shooter games,
yeah.
for sure.
And if we look at a lot of the criticism or pushback against the choice to go first person, people said that this is an Indiana Jones game. We want to see Harrison Ford look-alike character animations. We want to see him play the whip and do the cool shit. We don't want to see hands. And these are good points.
Yes.
However, they got both worlds in this game. The immersive parts, the combat, the puzzle solving. You see the hands, you feel like you are indie, dusting off that something covered in dust to see what's underneath, or carefully placing that statue and wondering if it's gonna spring a trap that's gonna take your head off,
Yep.
But when you need to be, you're in third person, and in the cinematics, it's third person. You see indie a lot. You see this voice actor play Indiana Jones and giving you that 40-plus professor that's coming out of his chair to do some adventuring.
It's Troy Baker, I think.
Troy Baker.
The guy who makes Indiana Jones' voice. He's very good.
Yes.
He does a very good job. He managed to capture the young indie, relatively young, Indiana Jones' voice, right? Because Harrison Ford was in his early 40s when he did those movies. And yeah, we should say though, in my opinion at least, that the platforming in this game seems like the weakest aspect of it for sure. Mostly because we already said this a few times. I think they should have went for the first person with that one as well. I think they should have went full on first person in this game. I think that would have been the better route to go, which is surprising because I actually thought when I heard about this game coming out, and I haven't seen enough gameplay yet, I thought that it would have been, the whole game should have been third person, right?
Yeah.
Just like Uncharted or something like that. That you can see Indiana Jones. But if they're going first person and they're doing it as well as it looks right now, as cool as it looks right now, why not go for it full Monty? Why just not, full measures? No half measures. Just go for it. You obviously know what you're doing when it comes to first person perspective. You have the experience, you have the creativity for making it seem like it makes sense in the Indiana Jones world. And yeah, it looks great. So why just not keep it instead of those clunky, kind of clumsy, weird looking third person climbing and sliding animations? I don't like them. That's the only issue I don't like so far. Overall, though, it looks great. The game looks great. We both think so far, from what we've seen.
Yes, looks great. The combat looks great. A lot of emphasis on it.
The first-person perspective seems to be working.
Yes,
for it.
We think so. At least from the footages we've seen so far.
Yep.
Now, guys, girls, do you agree with us? Do you think it looks good in first person? Or do you think that it should have been third person through and through? Purely third person? If you think so, let us know in the comments below. Either way, even if you agree with us, we'd love to hear your opinion. I'm excited for this game, bro.
For sure, bro. I hope it doesn't disappoint.
Also, if you liked our content, press the good button. If you didn't like it, press the not so good button. We appreciate it.
Anyways, that's all from us today, guys. Mid-game life crisis. I am Inconsistency.
I'm Werewolf.
We are out.
Bye.